And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. Guys, Crusty Old Guy has graced us with his presence this week. An honor. He's back. He took 1 week off.
I thought I was fired. That
You-
was the rumors that I heard on X, Y, and Z. I had been fired, insubordination.
Oh my goodness. You realize how boring this show would be if we didn't have Crusty Old Guy. It means we'd have to find a different old guy, and that means I would have to talk to people, and well, that's your job.
There is only one Krusty. And you won't be finding him anyplace else. I can guarantee you that.
Make sure to hit that like and subscribe, folks, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon.
Leave us a review.
Leave us a review.
Talk to us.
Please.
Krusty has no friends.
Crusty has no friends. All right, Crusty, let's get into it. We have a lot of things. You missed a week. Did you have any thoughts and feelings of the week you missed before we get into this week?
Oh, my goodness.
You can say no.
I did. I listened to it, and I had thoughts, but the thoughts have left, and I can't remember what my thoughts were.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. So I don't know. There was movement. There was this. There was that.
There was some signings. We didn't sign anybody. There was a lot of discourse on if we should have signed people or should not have signed people.
Well, I guess I could talk about that. There was nobody to sign. I am not the biggest Kyle Davidson fan. And I can tell you, there was nobody there to sign. There was 2 people to sign. They were gobbled up instantly.
I don't know. Part of my heart was hoping that we had a slight chance in Brock Besser, but that's just me. But it seems like the Vancouver Canucks really just do have Stockholm syndrome.
And Ehlers, you would have had to pay him another like $5 million a year to get him to come.
Right.
I believe moves need to be made. I believe Kyle needs to then go the trade route to figure things out before opening day. But as far as free agency,
What was your thought, though, and I talked about this a little bit last week,
maybe you'll jog my memory.
The people that were upset that we didn't sign people. It's because there was maybe some Chicago media outlets that had been pressing for months and months about how we have to get player X, Y, and Z, elevating the expectation that we're going to get, or at least try to get, player X, Y, and Z. And then they have frustration when we get Sam Lafferty. Not that there's anything wrong with Sam Lafferty unless he takes Sam Savoie's spot on the roster, which I'm a little scared about. But what are your thoughts?
First off, as far as expectations going up, that's what people need to do. You get clicks, you get this. It keeps everybody talking. I am starting to figure out the business model of all of this. And that's just kind of what you do. You kind of just talk out of the butthole a little bit because you'll get a response. And so I don't believe anybody really thought anything. I think that was the tune in. You're going to need to watch at this point. Something's going to happen at that point. I think everybody knew not much was going to happen. You would have had to give Marner a boatload.
Right.
And at the end of the day, he's not going to want to be here. So, as far as them doing stuff like that, I think that's just the nature of the business. It's to kind of drag you along a little bit. But this is a good segue for speed bump number 1. Since, I'm back. I have realized about other shows and everything, because you were on a show.
I was.
And I figured out things. This show might not have a lot of bells and whistles. We might not have an intern. We might not be able to do replays and put up graphics and, give a showing somebody skating and saying this guy's going to be great. But after your interview on said show, I am pretty sure the most Blackhawk knowledge is on this show right here. That's a fact. Okay? So if you actually want the knowledge, this is the spot to tune into. I've been listening to a whole bunch of other ones. This is still the spot. Someday we might get bells and whistles and make it more, I guess,
Flash.
pleasing to the mainstream media so we can delight you with bops and poops. Now you've just got to deal with the old guy smoking a cigar. But you were so spot on in that interview. I think it frightened the people that you were on with. And I think it frightened a lot of people because I think they just turned and went, we must sound really stupid compared to this girl.
I don't even remember half the stuff I said.
So that's all I wanted to say on that. But yeah, as far as it is what it is, they're in a very tough spot because nobody wants to come here. And I heard somebody say, was that Kyle Davidson's fault because nobody wants to come here?
Yes.
Well, hell yes. Who else's fault is it? What? What do you think because of the violence in Chicago, they're not signing with Chicago? No, it has to do with the dog crap team. Okay? So yes, that is his fault.
There's a reason you have guys signing in San Jose and you don't have them signing in Chicago.
Yes. One might be the weather, the other is we've got to start being honest. The culture's awful,
Mm-hmm.
the product's awful, and right now this is a lost team.
Yep.
It's just where we're at. Hey, nowhere to go but up. As far as the Lafferty, I'm done with that.
It's Carl Davidson's, Brandon
I am
Saul, Jeremy.
over it. I've been fed shit sandwiches for 2.5 years. And somehow I'm supposed to say, oh, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good shit. I'm done with that. Lafferty is a shit sandwich. Okay? Lafferty is somebody who averaged 8 minutes on the fourth line on the only NHL team that was less interested than us. Okay? This is supposedly a character guy that they gave away. This is also a character guy that watched Tage Thompson get bitch slapped and then watched Darlene get bitch slapped by 3 people and did nothing. I don't want to hear it. I'm done with the shit sandwich. I look at the shit and say, this is it's not good. Okay? There's nothing yummy about it. I'm done with this. Okay? And yes, it is a little bit of a fear that Sammy doesn't come up on opening day because Baldy's back. I don't need that. In this fact, oh, no, he's not. Did anybody watch a Buffalo game? Okay, I watched 5. Okay? The first 4, I forgot he was even on the friggin' team. And then I went, oh, that's Lafferty. Trust me, there was nothing there to see. Okay, I can't get it. We're taking casts off from actual teams that might be as bad as us. That's bad. It's not good. So I'm done with it. Listen, let the friggin' kids play. I thought that's what we were doing.
Well,
Why
isn't
is
that
this?
what he said in the press conference? Not
So
like
why's Lafferty here?
exactly. That's what he said in the press conference of we're at the next point of the rebuild where the kids play.
Right.
And now I've noticed during these press conferences, he's not even setting up like expectations of what he expects this team to be because he knows it will be whatever he says in the summer. But Powers asked him, basically what's the expectation and kind of just skirted around the question. Um, if Lafferty is the reason, I don't want to say that I hate anybody because at the end of the day, they're all NHL players and I'm just a girl who commentates. If Lafferty is the reason why Savvy doesn't get a spot come October, I'm going to be pissed. Because, like I said last week, if I've got to watch this, as Crusty explained, this shit sandwich, I at least want to see my favorite kid have some NHL minutes.
Again, we haven't even talked about the NHL yet. We've already
Nope.
gone to the big club. So I guess we're going to do everything backwards.
Yeah, we should probably.
But yes, see, look at that. There's a graphic. Boom. That just happened to you guys. Um, let's face the facts. Colton Dock should be playing in the NHL. There's nothing else for him to do in the AHL. Landon Slaggert's 23 years old. Okay? He should be playing in the NHL. Savos, Sammy, this team has no heart. That dude down there in Rockford has plenty of heart. He might be actually able to heart shame some of the other people on this team to give a hug, just like NASCAR did with his effort. And he shamed a couple players to go, oh, this kid's going crazy. Maybe I should give a little bit more effort. None of those three should be down in Rockford. And if I have to watch Mickey Mouse, Lafferty, or some of these other retreads, Foligno for one, instead of them, I'm not in the mood for it.
No.
I nobody's been able to give me a good answer of why he was signed, except for maybe, well, the moves aren't done. So maybe they're planning to jettison another three people. That's possible. But it's the same thing. I've already got mediocre people who will give me 4 shifts a game where they'll might be able to give a little ooh with effort. I need people who are going to give effort every shift, and it's none of these old guys, except for maybe the Dick. So
That's one that I did want to bring up. That was actually one of the questions that we got sent in. Of
whoa,
who do we think is going to be there come October? Who do we think should be riding the bench? And there was kind of a comment against the Dig. I think, granted, there's some of these vets that I'm not the biggest fan of with their lack of heart, but there are quite a handful that I think were brought in to take on a bigger role than than the type of player that they are. And I think the Dick is one of them. I think there's been a larger expectation for him to be the magic band-aid sometimes. And I like him. I like his game. But at the end of the day, he's not that guy. He wasn't going to be that guy. I think he's done probably the best in his career since he's been here. But he's not the magic kind of band-aid. We went through the same thing with Tavo when Tavo came back to Chicago and wasn't performing at 2015 Tavo. I think some of these vets, they were brought in to fill in a bigger role, and maybe Blackhawk management, Blackhawk media, whomever, heightened up that expectation. And now everybody's kind of just shitting on these vets when some of them, you just had to realize that they were never going to be that guy. You just had to pay attention.
right. I mean, Tebow at the end of the day is a third line player on a good team.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. Is he better than some of the other shit sandwiches? Why, yes. But getting back to the Dick, he is a very good shutdown centerman who has played really well when he's played. You ended up playing Connor Bedard with him because you had nobody else. He's fine. I've been told I have an NHL coach now. So I'm expecting said NHL coach to have a third line centered around the Dick. And the Dick's going to take 50% of the matchups against the other team's top line.
Yeah.
I'm figuring this is the year we start coaching. We are in year 4 of this. We're going to start coaching like it's an actual NHL game. We're going to match up a little bit. I don't know whose idea it was to have Connor Bedard chase after all these people the second half of last year, but that needs to be done. This is about putting him in positions to succeed. Okay? Chasing around Rope Hintz is not a way to succeed. Chasing around Nate McKinnon is not a way to succeed. When you can have the Dick chase them around and the Bedard can play against somebody else at home. That's what needs to be done. So the Dick is one of the only few veterans that I have no desire to get rid of. He is a very good defensive centerman, and he's got offensive upside on a team that has no offense. So there you got me wound up. I was completely out of energy, out in the heat all day, and it took you 2 seconds to wind me up.
Yeah, it happens when we talk about the big club.
Yes. So, yeah, the Lafferty thing, people are like, oh, yeah, well,
No.
watch the game completely. I get one good shift out of him, and then I get two lackadaisical shifts, and another good shift. It looks good because occasionally you'll get a breakaway, but I,
Also, this is the man that was his rights were traded to us, and then he said, "No, I will test free agency."
yes. So I don't
The
know.
last time we got him, he didn't want to be here. We're forcing him to come back.
Yeah, I don't understand any of it. I guess some of the plan is to have these kids in Rockford, and you think you're going to jettison these people during the trade deadline, but you were around last year.
Wasting too much time.
But you were around last year. You saw that nobody wanted our pieces at the trade deadline. Then nobody wanted a Ryan Donato. You told me. You think somebody's going to want a Sam Lafferty? Don't make me
I think
Lafferty.
people wanted Ryan Donato. I think people didn't want to give up a second rounder for Ryan Donato.
Right. So,
There's a difference
so
between
what?
nobody wanting a player and nobody
So what are
wanting
we doing?
the
Signing
asking
this guy
price.
so we can get a fifth rounder, and we've now swapped our sixth for a fifth. We're done with the draft picks, okay? So, um, what else you want to talk about the big club? Since we're on the big club first, we're gonna regress backwards.
We're gonna go backwards. I gotta think.
Uh oh, I smell that. Oh, there it is. It's smoke. Smoke. She's thinking. All right, we don't have to talk too much about the big club because
Gosh, I really hope that they don't do that though, because waiting till the trade deadline. I mean, like you said, there's kids in Rockford that really have no need to be in Rockford, especially for that long. And at the end of the day, as much as I mean, if they get rid of Savvy, we're gonna change this show. Um, if Landon Slaggart's not a part of the plan, if Colton Dock is not a part of the plan, and you're just keeping him in Rockford to do this weird dance, then trade them.
well, that's the thing. It's I don't know
If
if it's
that
fear.
is what you're trying, if that is like, you're like, oh, I like these guys, but I really don't know what to do. And we've got pieces coming and whatever thing you want to spin for me that I'm done hearing. If there's these young guys too that you're just going to keep them in Rockford because you really don't know what to do with them, trade them. Landon, I would love to see Landon Slaggard have actual NHL time consistently, then do this weird dance.
Well, you and me both. It's just I mean, if any of your listeners, anybody, any of these crazy people on the X, Y, or Z can explain to me why Colton Dock needs to stay in the minors,
Why does
why,
Colton Dock need to stay in the minors, but everyone's up my butt that Oliver Moore and Ryan Green need to be up in the big club? As
yes.
much as I do love Oliver Moore, that kid needs to be in Rockford for a time. I wanted him to go back to Minnesota for his junior year. There is no reason that Ryan Green and Oliver Moore need to be up in the big club. There's no reason that Artie needs to be up in the big club. There, I don't understand some of the logic of some of these kids need to stay down there in Rockford, but because the other ones may have bigger potential, we need to rush their development. Because now you're just starting to sound like Stan.
Completely agreed. And again, I went over this with you with more. I did not see anybody fly the zone more than Oliver Moore. That guy had no desire to be going back to the defensive end. He only was concerned about going back to the offensive end. I can work with that for a year in Rockford and explain to him, mm-mm,
Right.
That doesn't work at the NHL level. And Ryan Green, I can explain how to get him even better defensively, which I think will be his calling card a little bit in Rockford. Neither of them have played professional hockey. Rockford is the spot for them. But those other three, they've already been there. They've already done that. That time is gone. I don't know if that is KD just being scared of, he doesn't want these guys up too much, because then what happens if they look bad? Then he looks bad. Whatever. Those three need to be on the lineup. Moore and Green should start in Rockford. As everybody says, well, unless they have a really, really incredible camp. Well, in camp, they're playing against each other. So they're playing against real bad competition. Okay? You should know where these kids are going. As far as a preseason game, come on.
We're not judging off that.
Come on, we're not really judging off that, are we? Because that's just silly talk too. But yet, you'll have every mouthpiece saying, well, if they prove themselves in camp. There's no proving in camp. This is an organization that doesn't want any prospects proving themselves in a camp.
I think that there are some exceptions to that. Not in terms of like they need an immediate spot in the big club, but I will say
there is
no. Let me.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Was I stepping on you?
A little bit, stepping on the ground a little bit.
Oh my God! You bitch slapped me. That was awesome. Go on.
There's slight exceptions in terms of proving yourself at camp, and I do think Spellacy is one of them, because prior to the camp, the expectation was, one, who knows, and two, a former football player that's skating. And so I think there are moments where you can prove yourself in camp. Doesn't mean that you necessarily immediately deserve a roster spot, but I think camp and preseason is an opportunity to, there's got to be some sort of ladder with the rest of the prospect pool. And I think it's an opportunity to prove yourself to jump higher up said ladder.
Okay.
Because you may not you may not have a shot at like an actual roster spot, but say there's 4 centermen and you have a great preseason and training camp, KD or whomever's actually watching the game, probably my girl, is probably going to be like, hey, this person, maybe we bump above some of the other centermen that aren't playing or developing as well.
Yeah, there's a possibility for some of that. Spellacy was more of a, at the end of the day, it was more of a PR move. They knew he wasn't going to make the big club. They just kept him up for a while, and they were, he was a talking point. But to get to your point, the one player I'm thinking of is the Lardass.
That was going to be the next one, yeah.
But the Lardass has to show to me in practice, I need the Dick to be bringing his A game. And Lardass needs to show me that it doesn't bother him, which I don't think will happen. I think he needs to get used to playing against professional players for a year also. But yes, if he were to come in and he would have to blow me away that he's able to handle the physical aspect of all of this.
Kind of like when we saw Brandon Hagel in training camp.
Exactly, because with him, it's 2 pieces, though. It can't be that he's almost there. Because, again, we have the Olympics. This is a condensed season, which means these guys are going to be playing at least 3 to 4 times a week. He's not used to that whatsoever.
No.
You can get semi-used to it in the minors, but not even completely to the level that the NHL is right now, especially with that break. That's why they're scrambling and can't get me a schedule to the 16th. So maybe
How
they'll,
is it out?
huh? Yes, the 16th. I am waiting on my whole winter life
I know, me
until the
too.
16th. I've got my woman saying, well, can we do this? Can we do that? And I have to tell everybody, well, the schedule hasn't come out. All right. I just sound like an idiot. Um,
Gotta
you
know
know,
when Tomorutu comes into town.
but maybe him, but again, you would have to be blown away. Maybe there's the possibility they shiny piece him for like 6 games or 9, since he loves to burn that first year. Maybe he plays some 10. I don't know. Um, but that's about it. Everybody else, you're not getting full effort in camp. Veterans are getting themselves ready for opening day. They have their process. They know what it takes. So, I mean, who's another kid that could really give them the business? I don't know. You've made this all a big friendship thing. So I don't want to sit there and pound on my friend. We're going to have a painting class together. Sorry. I just so I don't understand the point of Moore or Lardass or Green, who's never played pro ball, to start them the year up. Not when I've got 3 that are used to it and are ready to fill, and we're going to see what they're made of. So,
Another one to jump into as well, because we still don't know logistically what's going to happen with our buddy Frondell. He will be at training camp. I've heard the rumors and rumblings that, he does still have 1 year left with the SHL. I think Blackhawk management is trying to get him out of it. Um, but we know with him, it's either Chicago or he goes back to Sweden. We've talked about that for the past couple of weeks. He's another one in the mix. I'm pretty sure he goes back to Sweden, but you don't know. Do you shiny piece it? Do you shiny piece that? Do you prioritize that over shiny piecing Lardis?
um, for me, I don't even hesitate. He goes back to Sweden. Their club, basically, I guess they placed high enough that they will be going to the next tier, the top tier in Sweden, his whole group. So now he's playing against the top tier of men in Sweden. Just let him go. Let him go. Figure all. He doesn't need this distraction. I believe more harm could be done trying to shiny piece him. Again, I get the whole thing of, well, whatever. If he's ready, he's ready. Even if he's ready, I don't have to play him on a dog crap team.
We're going to
Why
pause,
put him through
Crusty.
this?
Crusty, you're going to keep going.
Okay, I am going to keep going. Oh, geez. Now I'm stuck by myself. This is when I get really tongue tied and I get all scared. Oh, my goodness. It is just me on the screen. Okay. So, Anton Frundell. Their Sweden team was not the top tier Sweden league. They were the second tier. He played really well in the playoffs. Them as a group now, I guess, are the whole team is going to the next tier up. That's kind of the way they do it in Sweden. So he will be going up against the top tier of grown men in Sweden. It is a perfect spot for him to be in. Number one, I don't ever have to worry about people learning how to play the right way if they're in the top tier in Sweden. Everybody there, it's no different than anybody in the top tier in the Finnish league. They might not be the best player, but I know they're learning how to play the right way. So with Frondell, why would you put him underneath this kind of stuff? He's got a team over there. This team is not going to be very good, even if he is on this team. So what's the point? Why put the kid through that? I think it's a non-issue. I think it's a lot more talk to just keep things hyped up to begin with. Well, we could do that. The thing is we're gonna be bad next year unless Katie makes a couple trades. There's just no way around it. It's been a theme on this show that we try explaining to everybody. Yes, we're adding pieces.
But so is everyone else.
Everybody else in the NHL is adding pieces. Look at all the pieces the Philadelphia Flyers added.
Look at all the pieces the New York Islanders added. Look at all the pieces the Montreal Canadiens have added.
So I've got 3 prospects that I know should be at the next step no matter what.
Savoie.
And
Savvy's number 1.
And I try not to pump his tires too much because you inflate his tires to about 8 feet high no matter what.
Yeah.
But I am going to tell you that heart I need on the big club. I need that. The whole team needs that. I could actually have some little tykes skating around picking fights. That's what I want. Because that way the rest of the team is going to have to elevate their game a little bit because the other team's going to be pissed off at this guy. And that's what I need. And I need a little pushback. So I've already got 3 there. I don't need any more. There's not enough spots for all 3 of them to begin with right now.
That was one thing that Katie was talking about in the press conference of, we're at the next spot where we want these kids to play more and yada, yada, yada. Where? On what? Are you just talking straight up your defensive end? And then anybody who did question that, the reporters were quick to say that the average age of the team was like 25 or something. I think that comes from your defensive and your goalie end, certainly not your forwards.
Correct.
I think if you took your forwards out of the mix, the average age would still not be able to drink in this country. The age is brought down because of your defensemen, not your forwards.
Correct. And so, again, I can address the other silly thing.
Go for it.
Katie likes to talk about too is I don't want anybody blocking anyone. Well, you've signed somebody that we're worried about blocking Sammy from coming up, but there's nobody on this roster that you should be worried about. Who do you think's blocking anybody? If Sawa comes in and has a good camp, there I go back to the good camp. I already know that he's a net front presence on the power play. I could easily send Bertuzzi down to the minors. Oh, we can't do that. Yes, we can. We are the NHL. I can send any of them down to the minors. I don't believe they have a complete no movement clause. I believe they have a no trade clause. No movement means I can still move them down to the minors. And I don't care if I get nothing for any of them. So if you actually believe in blocking, it's your job to take the best talent. You don't have to worry about somebody else's feelings. This is the NHL. I don't care about their feelings.
You are correct.
If I need to send Foligno down to Rockford, that's fine. He can captain down there. So, again, more will be revealed.
You are correct. He is a modified 10 team.
Right.
No trade
Which means, yeah.
And Foligno has neither.
Right. There are some players that have a complete no movement clause, and because what they started to figure out, in order to force a trade, people would send them down to the minors. But a complete no movement means I can't move from this team. You can't send me down. But everybody on our club we can send down. I don't need anything from any of those people. I've got more than enough draft picks. We're draft pick heavy. It's time to move on. There, I've spent way too much time just whining, haven't I?
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's just
one last thing. one
Bring
last
it.
thing
We
we do
got
have
all
to
night.
talk about, because it's the beginning of free agency, and we've had a lot of unrestricted free agents, guys who haven't gotten qualifying offers. Shout out to Philip Kurashev for being a new San Jose Shark. But Arvid Soderblom is going to enter arbitration. And like I said with Kerr last year, I think so. I hope Soderblom takes Katie for all of his money, because there's been many a time that the only time that we won was because Bloom stood on his head. And also, I think it looks bad and is kind of a BS thing for KD to go into arbitration with one of his players for the second year in a row. You have you have over $22 million in cap space, and you can't pay one of your goaltenders whatever he's asking for. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous. Again, they don't know exactly what to do with Bloom. Um, him going to arbitration also helps the big club because he can't be offer sheeted, which I don't think he would be. But that's the other thing with that. If you ask for arbitration, you cannot take offer sheets for yourself. Then you've now made a choice that you are staying with this club, whatever the arbitrator says. Um,
And to add to that point, you have a player that actually wants to be here after you've made the point to everybody pre-rebuild that there's not a place for you, and you have a goaltender that actually wants to be here. Give him the money, Kyle. Give him the money.
yeah. Ideally, the other guy you can just send down to Rockford. That helps you with your. That way, you could have 10 million in dead cap space between just the goaltender you send down and Shea Weber.
Are you expecting the Frenchman to be healthy?
No, I am not.
And they really
Right,
can't send him down because you're
correct.
rushing Drew. We're not having a Kevin situation.
But if he is healthy, you just then send him down. So it should be a no brainer. I don't know what the big hiccup is. I didn't know what the big hiccup was with Kurashev. It just seems silly for right now, but again, whatever. And the only other thing that we're hearing a lot of is the moving maybe of Lucas.
Yeah, because Stan Bowman wants his pick back.
Well, right, but he's got to give me Bouchard though.
Yeah, Bouchard just signed an extension.
Well, he's still got to give him. That seems like a perfect swap. Um,
Gosh, and then we can have another goaltender or another defenseman making too much money. The fan base will surely love that.
oh, they love that. Yes, they do. Um, so, all right, wrapping it up. Number one, as far as the Blackhawks, there was nothing that Kyle could do. The Lafferty thing is stupid as all get out.
Because it hurts Savoy's chances. And at this point, that's really what this show cares about.
Well, it's what I care about. You're giving me a choice between watching Sam Lafferty
Or Sam Savoy.
or Sam Savoy is going to entertain me.
Right.
That is the same reason why, as much as you want Artie down in Rockford, I want Artie up here because I know Artie is going to entertain me. Some of it'll be good, some of it'll be bad, but that guy's going to entertain me, and I'm going to need entertainment next year.
Guys, if you see anybody in section 330 stress pulling their hair out, I guarantee it's Crusty Old Guy next year.
Yeah, because I still got hair. Look at
Just
that,
based
huh?
on the chaos of Artie.
See, you guys might not think I do because I always wear a hat, but I got hair. It's just all gray.
Yep.
Um, that was way longer than we figured we would spend on the big club, wasn't it?
We really didn't have that much to talk about this week, but since we're going backwards, we've got some Rockford signings and additions. And guys, these are just AHL contracts. So for the Rockford Ice Hogs, they have agreed to a 1-year AHL contract with Marcel. I think this is excellent. I'm a fan of his game. And gosh darn it, he makes the fourth line in Rockford. Very exciting. You've got 1-year AHL contract with Kevin Lombardi. I believe previously he was down with Indy Fuel, so now, or I could be wrong. I think it was Indy.
Yeah.
Uh, but he's now got a 1-year contract with Rockford. You've got Ryan Gagne, was another one that was kind of the Rockford Indy floating back and forth with a 1-year contract. You've got Harrison Israels with a 1-year contract, Jamie Engelbert, and Owen Flores. Very interesting to see what happens because Owen Flores is a goaltender from the Barrie Colts. You also have Cameron Rowe that you signed the day after the last game. So now you have two goaltenders in addition to the Drew Comesso, Mitchell Weeks, Ben Gaudreau sort of situation. So I'm very curious to see kind of what the goalie game plan is with Rockford and Indy. None of this will really affect the big club. If anything, this kind of tells me that they really don't expect the Frenchmen to start come October if they're signing these goaltenders kind of like in their minor league and affiliates. So it should be interesting. I think they're going to move on from Weeks, but we're unsure. Should be interesting to see who's backing up Drew come October for Rockford.
Yeah, that's a lot of goaltenders.
That's a lot of goaltenders.
And yeah, we're having a little bit of a changing of the guard as far as the veteran presence in Rockford. But again, we'll get into this deeper come closer to season time. But there's still not going to be a plethora of kids at Rockford. I mean, you're definitely going to need to at least have two lines of straight up veterans.
Right.
I don't even know if you have six kid forwards that you're going to be playing. So, are you going to fact check me right off the get go?
No, I'm going to go through who I'm thinking. Well, if I have my way, you have Oliver Moore, Ryan Green, and the Lardass down in Rockford.
Right.
Um, I do think I think you still have Ludwinski down there. I think you still have Hayes down there. I think Misiak makes the jump because I do believe he's eligible at this point from Erie to Rockford. I think that's the logical next step for him. He's not a part of the Frond situation where he's kind of outstayed his contract. Um, I think you have, let's see, you still technically do have Joey Anderson for another year. Again, that's a
Right,
veteran,
but Joey would be a veteran presence.
right? I mean, he's one of the older newbies, but somebody that isn't a complete veteran in the AHL. You have Aiden Thompson, once again, who joined them at the tail end of the year. Um, Back end, it very much depends on what they do come top team. But you do have Tage Harding, who joined them at the end of Providence College's season last year. You do have Dmitry Kuzmin and Ryan Mast. Ryan Mast you acquired from the Soderstrom trade with Chicago and Boston. He's going to be down in Rockford. It's just a Rockford defensive piece that they traded for. Um, and then you've got the question of do I get Nolan Allen or Ethan DeMastro down in Rockford? You're getting one up at the big club and you're getting one down in Rockford.
Right. So basically, like I said, we'll have two lines of kids forward wise and two lines of veterans.
Yeah.
But it's not like this is going to be all kid friendly. So they got to replenish their veteran group a little bit.
And I think it's not all kid friendly, not because they're choosing to. I think you have a lot of guys that probably would make the jump, but they're not going to age out of juniors yet. Like I talked about this at the tail end of last year. I do think Merrick Vanaker is more than ready for the next jump, but he's 19. He can't make the physical jump yet. So I think you do have guys that are ready for their next step, but they're simply too young to do so. So I think this is the last year of kind of an awkward in between, especially in Rockford. And then I think it will start to flip. I think this is the last year of Rockford being veterans in the majority when it comes to the roster.
Correct. We're in agreement. I concur.
Imagine that.
I can't imagine it.
Um, got anything else for Rockford?
I don't
For
believe so. As I said, we'll get we'll dial up with them when we need to, end of August and stuff like that.
yeah. Jumping over to the prospects real quickly, because Crusty, we talked about this slightly just before we started airing. Guys, we have the Olympics this year. It'll be very entertaining. We've got the top 6 from each country already announced, but of course everybody's doing their projected lineup sort of thing. Just need to throw that out there already that Seth Jones is in all of the projected lineups for Team USA, and I'm loving it. But more important than that, we have the projected lineups for Team Slovakia, and it is looking like there's the potential that Adam Guyon could be one of the 3 goaltenders going to the Olympics. I am very excited for this. I think this is great for him. Obviously, I think this is a really large opportunity for him to kind of showcase the development that he's had. He's already played in the like on an international level. Obviously, a lot of his clips. I think it was the World Junior or whatever moment, like he was the goaltender and it was Connor Bedard scoring on him. But he's played at international levels before. I think this is great. Going back slightly to a couple of Olympics is ago when they couldn't have NHL players. One of the biggest, I think the biggest stage for Lankinen was being able to perform at the Olympics, and it kind of elevated his spotlight. And I'm hoping that, that's you're able to see that with Guyon. Not only like with Blackhawk fans, but just hockey people in general. Because yes, we do have Spencer Knight. Yes, we do have Drew Commesso, and the future is with Drew Commesso. But I really still do believe that Adam Guyon is a piece in the future. We're not rushing this child by any means. But it will be nice for him to have a larger opportunity to kind of just be seen by everybody.
Oh, definitely will be. We talk about it a lot. You can never have enough goaltenders.
Now
Um,
we have a lot of goaltenders.
it's it's an extremely difficult league, and so many don't make it, and then so many wail around for 8 years, and then all of a sudden they arrive, at least for like a 3 year window. So Guyon is would definitely fit in that mold where he's got some pedigree playing on a decent stage. So
So that's really all that I have for prospects. Jumping to the NHL world, we've got some NHL news, some final signings and extensions. Ehlers finally signed one of the last bigger free agents for this year. He's going to be a Carolina Hurricane. Carolina Hurricanes were also able to get Keandre Miller from the New York Rangers. I don't know who's happier, Keandre Miller being able to get out of the city of New York, or Ranger fans not having to watch Keandre Miller anymore, because as we understood from our friends at Double Defense, a lot of Ranger fans just really did not like him. So I hope he has a decent fresh start with the Carolina Hurricanes. But they have definitely gotten two bigger pieces in this offseason. You've got McBain signing a 5-year deal with the Utah Mammoth. And let's see. And then you've got Cam York with a 5-year extension, after the final piece in the trio of best friends. Trevor Zegras ended up on the Flyers. He's like, you know what? I might as well stay here for 5 more years. So those are some of the bigger extension and signings that we've had from the past week.
Correct. Don't forget the big news, that Tyler Johnson has retired.
Yep, we were getting to that.
Oh, sorry. I'll let you continue then.
Yeah, Tyler Johnson has decided to retire. He did shout out the Blackhawk fan base a little bit in his retirement letter. Um, really, that's all that I have to say on that.
Yeah, he, for somebody of his stature and everything, had a pretty decent career. Granted, it was all with Tampa Bay for a window, but hey, a lot better than Crusty Old Guy's ever done. I'll tell you that.
True that. You've also got Zach Hyman hopes to return the beginning of the season for the Edmonton Oilers. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I don't think that they have an exact timetable on his return, but they're hoping for October.
Yes. And again, they'll slow roll him a little bit.
I mean, there's no reason to throw him in the deep end in October.
Right. Florida's given teams now even more of a little bit of a blueprint. If you're a good team, you're going into the playoffs. You worry about time management a little bit with some of these guys. There's no need, and it gives you a chance to look at other people that then you might be relying on come playoff time. Any other NHL news?
I don't think so.
Okay,
We've got Brent Burns going to the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, which he's got his flaws, but he's also
There's a reason he's still playing.
yes, and he's still worthy of a contract and can get things done. He's a huge body. The other thing that happened was they've ratified 4 more years for the NHL and the
Yeah,
Players Association.
can you explain this to me, because I don't get it and also wasn't paying that much attention.
What don't you get?
Like, what, 4 more years of what? Why do we care? Just the general why do I care?
Well, there's not a work stoppage.
Mm.
You would have had the fear of a work stoppage. There's not always been a phenomenal working relationship between owners and the Players Association. They have now figured out that they are in a good sweet spot. The cap is going up. Everybody's pretty happy. They've talked about their Olympic stuff, which they wanted done. I believe they also will go to an 84 game schedule,
Hmm.
which smells to me that we are getting more expansion. That's why they're going to the 84 games. But it basically means that we don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Are we getting Atlanta Thrashers 3.0?
You probably are. It's a
Yes.
it's a big city. You're hoping that something comes. It's an untapped market. Will it work? I don't know. They all just love their football down there. It's hard to make it, but again,
Do you think it would help with how much? I mean, granted, I know they're different states, but with how much success Florida has had in recent years,
oh,
to kind of piggyback off that growing market that's not too far
well,
over.
I think you look at the Florida teams, and you were told a while ago that it just won't work there because people won't show up, and Tampa's completely blown that out of the water.
Right.
With you build a beautiful place for them to play, build a good team, people will come. You've seen from Vegas that you can make it as an expansion team because they're paying a boatload of money for this.
I think
and they're
also
going to get
Vegas being an expansion team worked because at that point in time, that was Vegas's team. Now we're at the point where other teams are being relocated to Vegas, but at the point with Vegas, like you didn't
right.
have another team. This was the city team that they could rally
Well,
behind.
hold on, we're trying to rustle up the Rutu, who's screaming and yelling at
Oh,
neighbors.
you got Root 2. Do you have Dum Dum too?
No, we do not have Dum Dum. Dum Dum was back home, so
Mm,
just the Rutu, and Rutu is now inside, so you won't hear any more barking if you
mm.
heard the barking. Um, so I understand why they're going back there, and will it work? Well, it depends on the team. Everybody
Gives us
freaking
a new city to visit.
everybody likes a winner. Everybody hops on board. You know, everybody makes fun of bandwagoners, but everybody at some point in time was a bandwagoner. There was only 3,000 people at the United Center for years. So let's not talk about bandwagoners. I don't know where the heck all you people were before, Kane and Taves. So
Hey, some of us were still in elementary school. I mean, I was already on the wagon, but some of us were children.
correct. So it's an untapped place that if you hit there, it would be really nice for the NHL,
Yeah.
and they're looking to expand. So
I think it
uh,
also depends on like the people that actually go in there to expand. Like it seems like the Arizona didn't work because at least in my uneducated brain, the little that I read was that the Arizona owners were kind of skeezy and really didn't give a crap. But it seems like the Utah guy really gives a crap, and that's why it's kind of working.
yeah, we got some of that from our friend of the show, Jeremy Roenick, who
Yeah,
kind of explained things. And the original owner, he was okay, but then there was just a lot of bad things that happened
right.
after him, and things just went in the crapper. It's hard to get into a new market. Um, Face the facts. Here in the U.S., hockey is number four, and they're number four. They're way behind the other three. It's just the way it is. There's football, there's baseball, there's basketball, and then there's a pause, and then there's hockey.
Yep.
But the Florida teams have shown it's nothing that just will stick up north. No, I mean, look at what Florida's doing, and I will stay on the bandwagon of, if you guys really believe it's because of the taxes, you're just not paying that much attention. No, Bill Zito built a juggernaut. That's why everybody wants to go there. And you got an ocean. That's not bad either. And I've never really spent any time in Atlanta, but I'm sure it's a fine city.
Yeah.
So, but basically, what that does is it just says we don't have to worry about the two of them arguing about anything. They're really hand in hand at this juncture, which is nice for somebody who's had to deal with some work stoppages, a year of no hockey. I mean, just think about that, a year of no hockey. How awful is that? What do people do? That's about all I've got for the NHL world. What do you got? Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. You want to talk about the other big part? I consider it a very big part, and that's the kid.
Oh, yeah. Gavin McKenna has announced that he will be going to Penn State next year. For those who do not know, Gavin McKenna is slated to be the number one overall draft pick for next year in 2026. And right now, before Crusty gets on the monologue, I'm going to hop on the high horse real quick. For anybody, and this started kind of right before free agency, that is going to tell me again for another year that we need to be bad and tank for a kid. Now, I don't care how good the kid is. The kid is great. Gavin McKenna is great. I'm just sick of purposely tanking for a number one pick. But with that being said, Gavin McKenna is going to Penn State. He's going to be the number one next year. He's Connor Bedard's cousin, we've talked about, but not by blood, by marriage. So it's not genetic. It's just a weird happenstance. He was offered a lot of money to go to Penn State, which was interesting. Crusty is going to talk about it. I do think it's interesting, but at the end of the day, I don't think it matters in terms of actually winning because your national champions won and beat out all of those teams, including Penn State, who just handed a 17-year-old a lot of money, spending no NIL money.
Yes. But this is going to start a revolution. This is not good for the CHL. Your top draw is leaving so he can get paid. I don't know how the CHL is going to have to figure out some things. The one thing they have on their side is there's not going to be a ton of kids getting this kind of money each time.
No.
He's a special talent, but it's something to be worried about. Because the other big thing that they have is Penn State. It's an incredible back training facility. You're training personnel. You have a whole college behind you with trainers, this, that. Very difficult for the CHL to compete with. And the CHL is a huge part of the way things are done in Canada. Just from the kids having to go different places to play, but it's their free labor. So I don't know if that league at some point in time becomes a paid league also. I don't know how. It's just the tip of the iceberg. I hope it doesn't get too nuts. I just don't see them starting to shell out every year for 20 players.
No, I think I think if Connor Bedard was this year, they'd be doing the same thing. I think it's going to be maybe for who's projected to be your number one, maybe if they're in the CHL. I think if you've got one that's like, say, Frondell was projected to go number one, I don't think that the NCAA tries to shell out an insane amount of money for like an overseas prospect. But I think it, like you said, it's the tip of the iceberg, but I don't see this being like a yearly occurrence.
That's my hope, because I don't want to see things start to fall apart a little bit on the CHL level, just because their junior teams, you would know better than me, but their junior teams are a lot of the community.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
From a community pride standpoint, it's huge.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that go away too much to just college things. But you've got most of your top kids now wanting to go to college because of the facilities and everything. I don't know if you try to put more into your facilities. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know what it looks like in 5 years.
I think they will try to put more into their facilities, and that's just by the Zach Hyman backing and being a part owner of one of the CHL teams. I think they eventually will get into the kind of trying to advance the facilities that they do have by hockey players going back into that commute, like trying to develop more either their junior team or junior team that's close to their home. I think in turn Zach Hyman going and being a part owner for one of the CHL teams is another tip of the iceberg. Hopefully, because I also just do like to see that.
Yeah, me too. As I said, it's a big part of their communities and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how Gavin does. Penn State is kind of loaded. We'll get into that at some point in time
Penn
later.
State was loaded last year, and Western Michigan still beat them.
Correct, and it just tells you the model of, especially in hockey, it's still one of the few sports if you can get everybody to buy into the system. And the classic line that everybody likes to use, which is silly, but I'll still completely agree with everybody pulling on the rope. Yeah, everybody
Don't
doing what.
start quoting our captain. I'll end the show right here.
But it is a fact. Our team didn't do that,
Right.
but you have Denver, you have Western Michigan that just they play a certain way. Everybody knows their roles, which is difficult to do in this game, as you can tell by the big club. Nobody knows their roles. I'm hoping that changes.
Yeah.
I have high expectations for the Bash. I've gotten on the Bash bandwagon from listening to them, but as we know, talk's real cheap and it's easy. As us doing an hour of talking.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, though. You go ahead and try this.
It's really not that easy. All right, Crusty, you got anything else for this week?
I don't believe so. I've tweaked my back. I got a big move coming up this weekend. I just gotta, that's what I'm focused on.
All right. Well, folks, just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. That is all, and we will talk at you guys next week.